Hello everyone and welcome to our special coverage of China's annual political season. I'm Zhong Shi.
And I'm Wang Mengmang. The Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference is wrapping up its annual session at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing.
And political advisors are expected to deliberate and pass key resolutions, where the chairman of the National Committee, Wang Huning, will deliver a speech.
And during the week-long meeting, over 2,000 national political advisors from all across the country hold discussions on topics concerning China's development.
And before the meeting begins, CPPCC members take questions from the media on key issues.
That's right. It's known as the Members Corridor, which debuted in 2018. Political advisors make their voices heard through this channel, and we'll certainly bring you live coverage of that.
And I'm also pleased to introduce the two guests who will be joining us in the studio. Liu Baocheng from the University of International Business and Economics and Professor Rick Dunham from Tsinghua University. Gentlemen, fantastic to have both of you on our special coverage today.
Welcome. And certainly the third round of the CPPCC's Members Corridor is expected to start shortly. It's a platform for journalists to speak directly to political advisors. Our reporter Chen Yuan gives us a preview.
The advisory body will wrap up its annual meeting on Saturday afternoon. In just a few moments later on, you will see some of the members that will be participating at the Members Corridor. This will be the third and also the last Members Corridor that will be taking place for this year's CPPCC annual session. And some of the members who will be attending this corridor, including experts, for example, from the new sector, including energy and resource, as well as some of the experts who have made significant contributions in various fields in China's modernization progress. And I want to share with you that this is the face-to-face section for reporters to raise their questions to members at this corridor, and they will be sharing a lot of touching stories of what they have done, especially what the people have done and have accomplished in the past few years. And later on, the CPPCC annual session will be closed, and but this is not the end of their working progress. Some of the major achievements they have done, including the advisory body has elected the new chairman of 14th National Committee of CPPCC, Wang Huning, and also 23 people are elected as the vice chairman, and also one secretary general have been elected. So this is just one of the meetings that they pretty much set out the agenda. They will continue to carry out their work in the upcoming years, and also after the closing session they will be returned to their regular position, continue to hear more voices from the people and included those into their proposals.
The deputies of the first session of the 14th MPC have voted to approve Li Qiang as the premier of the State Council of the People's Republic of China, as nominated by Chinese President Xi Jinping. The new leadership of the National Supervision Commission, Supreme People's Court, and Supreme People's Procuratorate of China were also elected at the meeting. We get more details from CGTN's Feng Yilei.
任命李强同志为中华人民共和国国务院总理。
China's new premier has been formally appointed. Xi Jinping, elected as Chinese president on Friday, signed a presidential decree to endorse Li Qiang. And nearly 3,000 lawmakers voted to approve the premiership nomination. For the first time in this position, Li Qiang swore to uphold the constitution of the nation.
我宣誓
I pledge to be allegiant to the Constitution of the PRC, safeguard the Constitution's authority, fulfill my legal obligations, be loyal to the country and the people, be committed and honest in my duty, accept the people's supervision, and work for a great modern socialist country that is prosperous, strong, democratic, culturally advanced, harmonious, and beautiful.
According to the government work report delivered last Sunday, the Chinese government will put into practice the guiding principles from the 20th CPC National Congress and operate in accordance with the guidelines of the Central Economic Working Conference. The premier is expected to act within his sphere of influence as the head of the State Council. Beijing has said that it had triumphed in preventing and controlling COVID-19, and that this year's top priority are achieving economic stability and making steady progress. In an earlier meeting during the current session, Li Qiang stated that while economic development has started off this year well, there are still numerous difficulties and challenges to overcome. Authorities will therefore adhere to the new development philosophy, focus on encouraging high-quality growth, and put a lot of effort into achieving the annual development goals. Priorities include boosting domestic demand, unwaveringly deepening reform, speeding up the industrial system's modernization, advancing high-level opening up, and fostering an international business climate that is market and law-based in order to draw in and make use of foreign investment. The fourth plenary meeting of the first session has also witnessed Zhang Youxia and He Weidong endorsed as vice chairpersons of the Central Military Commission, China's top national defense body chaired by Xi Jinping. Deputies also voted to confirm Liu Jingguo as director of the National Supervisory Commission. And Zhang Jun has been elected president of the Supreme People's Court, while Ying Yong has been elected as Procurator General of the Supreme People's Procuratorate. The top judicial, procuratorial, and supervisory organs are expected to guarantee the country's future development by further building high-level rule of law. Setting the stage for building a modern socialist country in all respects tops the agenda of China's political season. And with upcoming elections of other leaders, including the vice premiers, state councillors, ministers, and secretary general of the state council, the meetings will determine where the country is heading over the coming years. Feng Yilei, CGTN, Beijing.
This year, a new group that focuses on challenges related to the environment and natural resources has been added to China's top advisory body. One of the group's members says while extreme climate events are now inevitable, long-term adaptation plans by China could make living with the new reality possible for all. Sun Ye has the story.
More heat, more drought, more unwelcome extreme weather events, and they will come more frequently. It's an unsettling truth for those tracking the world's changing ecological environment, including those in the new focus group.
So many asking me whether or not last year's record-shattering heat will happen again this year. Though scientifically, we cannot tell if it will come this summer. What we can tell is if the world maintains its current level of carbon emission, then it's very likely that those once every 50 years extreme heat events will come every 2 years. It could be the new kind of normal we have to live with.
That's the context to Zhang's proposal on climate change-proof urban adaptation plans this year, and also the context to the establishment of this focus group.
Such sectorial adjustments reflects China's resolution in going with green development, environmental protection, and actively coping with climate change. It shows how green development is of unwavering importance to China's development strategy. We on the group will do our best to contribute to both China's knowledge of the global issue and China's plans to address the issue.
Zhang says China's efforts in adapting to climate change are deep-rooted.
It's been 10 years since China first published the National Strategies for Climate Change Adaptation. In 2014, China had a national plan for how to cope with the changes, including action plans for key areas. We've also continued to work with the international community, including promoting South-South cooperation in adapting to climate change. We hope more developing countries can better meet the changing environment. After all, respect for nature, the protection of nature, and a harmonious bond with nature are part of Chinese-style modernization. We hope the whole world will work together in proactively protecting Mother Earth.
So yeah, CGTN, Beijing.
Jiang Qi is a member of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, China's top political advisory body. He submitted proposals on a range of environmental and rural development issues at this year's CPPCC session. Our Sun Tianyuan caught up with him in Beijing weeks after their first interview.
Jiang Qi is a researcher in forestry and grassland ecology from the autonomous region of Ningxia in northwestern China. One of his main proposals at this year's two sessions aims to boost China's livestock feed and seed industry.
China's supply of high-quality forages such as clover and ryegrass relies mainly on imports. The self-sufficiency rate is less than 30%. This has a tremendous influence on animal husbandry and land graining. I think we should boost progress in the seed industry and build Ningxia and nearby regions into a national seed base for high-quality livestock feed.
I caught up with him in Beijing weeks after our first interview.
The proposals have been submitted for review.
Working online has become the new norm for the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. More than 90% of member proposals over the past 5 years were submitted online. Also new this year, a group set up within the CPPCC for the first time in 3 decades. Its focus is on environmental issues in response to a rise in related proposals in recent years.
The discussion on environment and natural resources has become increasingly important to China as its development has reached a certain stage. It's also proposed at the 20th National Congress to build a harmonious coexistence between humans and nature.
Zhang has submitted more than 15 proposals over the past 5 years. The ecologist will begin his new 5-year term this year, and his duty to promote China's green development carries on. Sun Tianyuan, CGTN, at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing.
Well, northwest China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region is known for its delectable fruits, grapes, watermelons, cantaloupes, pomegranates, you name it. And these fruits are among local farmers' major sources of income. So how to guarantee the production of these important agricultural products, and how can the NPC deputies help? In this episode of our special series, China's Democracy, our reporter Huang Yue visited Turpan in Xinjiang, a place known as the hometown of grapes.
Turpan is one of China's largest grape growing and raisin producing areas. It produces over 36% of Xinjiang's grapes, accounting for 1/5 of China's total production. But what difficulties and challenges do local farmers face, and what support do they need the most? I'm going to meet a deputy of the National People's Congress to learn more. Nurbia has been busy visiting grape farmers to collect suggestions since she became a deputy to the National People's Congress, China's top legislature. This year, she plans to put forward suggestions about the grape industry development during the two sessions. One of them is to replace the short wooden grape trellis with taller concrete ones. In the past, each concrete post cost 15 yuan, and now it's 18. Using the concrete posts, grapes can have better sunshine and air. More importantly, farmers won't need to bend over when working in the fields, and the harvest will be more mechanized, so we need more financial support in this. Turpan has over 3,000 hours of sunshine throughout the year, with a large temperature difference between day and night. There were over 100 days in a year when the temperature is above 35 degrees Celsius. Such climatic conditions make grapes here especially tasty and one of the pillar industries since the 1990s. Currently, the grape planting area in Turpan is 36,000 hectares, with an annual output of over 1.4 million tons. And over 70% of local farmers' income comes from grapes. In recent years, Turpan has also suffered from extreme weathers, such as gale, heavy rainfall, and hailing, which cause huge damage to the grapes. So I also put forward the suggestion to include grape cultivation into the policy-supported agricultural insurance to mitigate farmers' risks. This is the first time for Nurbia to be an NPC deputy, and she's the only one from Turpan. She feels honored and, more importantly, great responsibilities on her shoulders. She has been visiting farmers, experts, and the 13th NPC deputy of Turpan to learn more about the local grape industry. With all the preparations, she hopes her suggestions can be taken into bringing encouraging policies back to the people.
Huangyue, CGTN, Turpan, Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region.
We're now just minutes away from what is known as the Members Corridor, and keeping us company here in the studio are Liu Baocheng, Dean of the Center for International Business Ethics at the University of International Business and Economics, and Rick Dunham, Professor at Tsinghua University. Gentlemen, a pleasure to have both of you on our program today.
Thank you for joining us.
I personally enjoy this event called the Members Corridor because despite all the political formality and procedure, this is where you get up close and personal with those political advisors, who they are, what they care about the most, and their insight into their respective discipline. Professor Liu, let me start with you. I would imagine you would pay special attention to proposals in the education sector. What is your impression of the proposals brought up this year?
Well, the proposal is very firm despite of all the difficulties and also slower economic growth, I should say. That we maintain the budget above 4% of the GDP for supporting education. And the other is that we are going to streamline the two tracks, research-oriented and also the job-oriented or career-oriented education. And so we are going to strengthen more of the vocational schools that are catering to the high quality development, particularly in the manufacturing sector. And then the more discussions are there also to support more, to expand the compulsory education and free education period. So this is really something that is very welcome. And now the other thing is also the how we can really streamline the research the data that can be there to support the country's growth, is that on the management of government funds to support both science and also liberal arts research are getting streamlined, and researchers feel that there is more transparency and there is more simplification of procedures, and we are more encouraged.
And a lot of the issues raised at the two sessions are being closely watched by the international community, even though some of them are largely domestic, but they do reflect the government's and the country's priorities in the process. So, Mr. Dunham, what are some of the items on your list of concern?
Well, I'm interested in terms of the domestic Chinese situation, both the new individuals who are going to be influential and any kind of policy shifts. What we can learn about specific policy proposals and where it's changing, how China is adapting to the post-pandemic era, to an era of slower growth, to an era of an international backlash against globalization and a fracturing of supply chains. And so modernization in China is more than just a keyword. We are very interested globally in what goes into modernization in the Chinese economic model.
And as we mentioned just now, we are seeing some sectorial changes, adjustments within the CPPCC framework. For example, groups concerning the environment has been added this time. How does it reflect the the main issues concerning China's top leadership?
Well, there has been a long debate as how we can really balance between economic growth and ecological quality. And of course, we wanted to achieve both, but there needs to be a delicate balance. And also that because China is so diverse in terms of the level of development, in terms of the sectorial concentration, so how we can really cater the right type of policy to preserve the resilience on both sides. So this is really a challenging task for all the members to work out. And the other is that we are also facing global pressure as how we address the climate change. But in the meantime, how we can really defend our strategic position in a supply chain. So these are really the daunting tasks that's lying ahead of China's future development. And now I think the policy has been made more clear, and we have the clear agenda, and we maintain a moderate the level of growth rate, but in the meantime to achieve a holistic, healthy development. And particularly, right now the focus is on the rural revitalization, and we can see that it is not only there to...
Well, Professor, let me just leave you there. We're going to the venue of the sessions for members' corridor.
To attend the third members' corridor. And here we have invited some of the CPPCC members to take your questions. And in the interest of time, every reporter can pose one question only. And please identify yourself. Now let's invite the first group of members. Self-introduction. Hello everyone. I am the President and Party Secretary of China Energy Engineering Corporation, Song Hailiang. Hello everyone. I'm also CPPCC member, the President of Yuexin Group, Ding Zuohong.
I'm the chairman of the JD Group Technical Committee, Mr. Chao Peng.
Now the floor is open to questions and answers. From CMG, my question goes to member Song Hailiang. With a lot of infrastructure support, China has become the largest energy producer. So my question is as to the green transformation. What are the experiences of China that can be shared with the whole world? Thank you for the questions. And also thank you for your attention paid to green development and green and low carbon transformation campaign. Right now, targeting at sharing and integration of energy and industries, we are aiming at such a great transformation. Integrated energy development is also another attempt and also the main pathway for green transformation. Last year, the installed capacity of renewable energy in China exceeded that of coal, and the proportion was raised to 70%. The power generation was almost 2.7 trillion, and that was almost the combination of the power consumption in 27 countries in EU. You could witness the speed of renewable energy development, and we're also facilitating the integrated development of energy with the other industries. First of all, compared to the conventional energies, the renewable energies are also useful. They could complement each other. And second of all, we are working on Energy Plus industries and the construction and the transportation. The third one is about the integration among different industries, for example, between the upstream and downstream, so that in multiple fields and at multiple stages there could be synergy effects. Another example is about integrated development between elements, for example, between industries and technologies, and so on. And also, there has been some integration across regions or even across borders. In that way, we attempt to create a new landscape for green carbon development. To give you two examples, the first one is about integrated development. In Inner Mongolia, China Energy Engineering Corporation established the first integrated demonstration program, as is known to all. This is the key area for keeping husbandry industry, so it is very demanding in terms of ecology. That's why we introduced the PV panels to increase the water content in the soil, and that paves the way for the growth of vegetation. Husbandry work could be continued within these pasture areas, and that is quite an innovative way. For one thing, we improved ecology locally, and secondly, we increased the local herdsmen's income. According to the local villagers, There could be some animal keeping on top of the grasses, and in the meantime, there has been some intelligent brains to guide their daily work. And in such integration, nature has been improved. The second example is about zero-carbon navigation channel, the green EV boats, and the green transportation, green airports, and so on. All of those are new examples serving as the new products and new business forms for green development. The Pinglu Canal in Guangxi Province is a good example. It adopts the newest construction concepts to generate zero carbon emissions. They used all green energy and renewable energy indeed. They used even the green boats. And for the water navigation, they also adopted the green energy for their navigation. They truly realized green transformation and low-carbon development. So integrated development of energy is not just about adding more. Instead, it's about generating even much higher benefits than just the two of them. We must further scale up such a structure of energy integration so that green power could go to all households and become the new norm. Low-carbon development must become the mainstream of our development and thus support people's daily lives. So our general public could enjoy the beauty of the nature and live in harmony with nature. Thank you. Next question. Thank you. From Economic Daily, the question goes to Ding Zuohong. Recovering consumption and economy will be the priority. Ever since the Spring Festival, consumption has been recovered to a great deal. And what's your take about the prospect of consumption this year? Do you have any recommendations? Thank you for the questions. In 2022, in our economic performance, including consumption, has been hit hardly by the pandemic. And to that end, the national government has unveiled a series of favorable policies to spur consumption, effectively stabilizing the sound fundamentals of the market. During the Chinese Lunar New Year in 2023, in our transportation field, we have received 262 million passengers. Compared to the same time last year, that was an increase of 71.2%. And I do believe that population flow equates with information flow, and which could be converted to consumption. On the 15th of Lunar New Year, in Shanghai, we held an event inviting Chinese and overseas passenger consumers. We made dumplings altogether. It was quite a success with wide participation. But there was an incident. One of our guests from Sri Lanka, called De Long, held my hands and asked for a group photo with me in one of those pavilions in the shopping mall. I asked him why. He said, I would be more than happy to send this group photo to Sri Lanka to tell my friends and families that our product has been made to the Chinese market. And I would love to tell them that China has strong consumption power with its vast market. And look at this photo, they would realize that there have been so many people shopping with high population flow. So I was very proud hearing him saying that. Chinese market did enjoy vigor and vast prospect. Data from different shopping malls proved that retail sales on many platforms and including different categories like home appliances and furniture have enjoyed a rebound, especially in catering and recreational businesses. Offline tertiary industry has enjoyed a huge recovery. Some shopping malls have enjoyed a huge demand in terms of such a selling pavilion. And there are some good news even recently. In Kashgar in Xinjiang, we saw a huge rebound as well. Such sound performance testified that with favorable policies, there have been some direct achievements made. It is the blossoming spring season, and the market is starting to boom as well. China boasts 1.4 population. That itself is a huge market. It's just like a vast ocean. Consumption forces are always there. The market remains huge, and people's aspiration for a better life is still remaining. With improved business environment and market players with higher momentum, the consumers will also have a stronger consumption capacity, so we do have confidence that our consumption market will only be better. I'm convinced that the consumption market will also help to facilitate our economic and social development. I believe that together with all the employees of my group and the employees from All China Federation of Industry and Commerce, will continue our great efforts to serve all our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please. Thank you. With Renmin.net, my question is to the members helping with the development of the digital development. Now we are seeing new scenario of the employment market, and we do see many different types of jobs and of freelancers. And right now we have over 200 million people who are consider themselves as a freelancer. How to protect their rights? What's your view? Thank you. Thank you for your question, and also thank you for your attention to the group of the freelancers. I believe all of you are quite familiar with this group. For example, the delivery guys, the car hauling drivers, and all these people, they are freelancers. But I'm not sure if you get a full picture of these people. Actually, I personally know a lot of delivery guys. For example, in Anhui, Xutai County, one guy called Tan Shiwang, we call him Lao Tan. So he has some talents. Every day, he will receive hundreds of packages to him. It's not mean that this person is crazy about shopping. For some people, their kids are living in different cities, and their family members don't know how to receive the package. That's why these people send their packages to the delivery guy. Because for the delivery guy, sometimes if they find some elderly people, if they're not able to read, they can help them to interpret the information about the medicine. And also, if we think for some of the elderly, if they have some difficulties in life, and he will serve these people. So for Lao Tan, he will travel around 200 kilometers per day and deliver the packages to all the villages. And also, in Beijing, we have another guy called Sun Shuwen. Actually, he delivered over 300,000 packages covering over 320,000 kilometers. And actually, he became one of the deputies for the 20th Party Congress. So for numerous freelancers, actually they're serving the society with their own efforts. But these people also face some challenges and difficulties in their life. I still remember one figure. By the end of 2021, we have over 200 million people as freelancers, but a very small portion of them join the health insurance program of China. Actually, this will have an impact for these people. For these freelancers, they also have families. Each one of them may be the pillar for the family. For these people, I do believe that they are working with risks. They may also frightened about all of these challenges and risks, but they're not working for one certain company or enterprises. They have to pay more in order to join the medical insurance program. So that's why these people may not join the insurance program in China, and this will also affect their employment. Our party and our nation actually pay great attention to their rights and interests. So in the report of the 20th Party Congress, General Secretary emphasized that we have to provide more guarantee to these freelancers. By taking this opportunity, I also want to call on the enterprises or the companies to consider the interests and rights of these freelancers. For example, my company has signed labor contract with numerous freelancers, and also we purchase commercial insurance program to them, and also we help them to pay the social security program. And in the future, we will help them to buy their house, etc. For the freelancers, they are also diligent workers. They serve the people and bring conveniences to our livelihood. We are the contributor in the new era and also serve numerous people. For the companies, we have to leverage all these different factors, making sure that these freelancers, they can be taken care of when getting old and have access to the medical care in illness and be compensated when they get injured. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we'll welcome the second group of the members. So please introduce yourself. Good afternoon. I'm from the Jiangxi Province. I'm the head of the Tax Bureau of Jiangxi Province, Fan Zhagen.
Hello, I'm CPPCC member, research fellow of China Film Archive, Huangfu Yichuan. Now the floor is open to questions.
The first question, please. Thank you. With tax paper, my question is to Fan Zhagen. So right, different sectors of the society pay a lot of attention about the tax payment. They pay attention about the tax collection, and also they want to understand where these tax revenue comes. So you are a representative in the tax sector. Can you tell us more about how we use the tax income? Thank you for your question. Tax collection is very important in China. For the national governance, it has played a key role. It also reflects the future of the nation and also have a close relation of our people's welfare. So that's why people are concerning about how we collect tax, where we collect tax, and how we use the tax income. Actually, we collected tax in different ways. However, this will be differed in accordance of the different jobs and occupations. For example, when you are buying certain products, you have to pay extra fees. For example, the income tax, etc. With the start of the new China, we have made different upgrades of the tax policies. No matter what changes we have been made, we have put people's interests as our top priority. Especially, we pay attention to the companies and the people in difficulties. For example, affected by the pandemic, for some of the enterprises, they meet a lot of challenges to sustain. That's why the country issue a lot of policies to reduce tax and the fees. We have implemented all of these policies to reduce the tax. Before I came to Beijing, I also visited different places. For one company, he said that they have received a great amount of the tax credit refund. This will help them to stabilize their employment. And for the first 2 months of this year, and for this company, the workers can gain more income this year. According to the report last year, the tax credit refund last year reached around 2.46 trillion yuan. This will help us to increase our confidence for future development. As we talk about the tax income, people may concern how we use this tax income. Actually, for the tax income, we will use them to serve the people. Especially, we pay attention to the key projects, for example, the national defense, technology, disaster alleviation, etc. Except for those key projects, the tax income will also use to serve the people and to address their difficulties. During the Spring Festival, I visited one of the counties in Jiangxi province to understand more information about the rural revitalization. I visited one household. During my visit, they showed me their social security card, and they said they received 9,800 yuan as the subsidy. For the disabled, they also able to receive some of the subsidies from the country. And for these people, if they receive these subsidies, they will feel more insured. So last year, for the provincial government, we also issued over 4,000 security cards to their villages. And for these people, they can use this card in their daily life. And also, we're able to implement over 100 subsidy programs. For the tax income, on one hand, we are actually collected with the key projects, but also we have to serve the people. We are shouldering responsibilities. We have to stay true to our original aspiration and do a good job in every aspect and also fulfill our duties. Thank you. Thank you. Next question, please.
Thank you. From Xinhua News Agency, my question goes to member Huang Fuyichuan. This year we have seen many record-breaking box office during the Spring Festival, and there has been a diversified supply of films. Does that mean that the film market has gone out of the previous difficult time, and what's going to be the trend of the film industry? Thank you for your questions, and thank you for your concern about China's filmmaking industry. Early this year, actually, the Chinese filmmakers were quite worried. The Spring Festival is around the corner, and would China's film industry have turn of events? In 2019, China's box office exceeded 67 billion RMB yuan. That was a record in history, and there has been huge improvement of quality. 1.7 billion people went to the theaters to watch movies. And those achievements in previous years rendered the understanding that China's film industry was about to welcome a bright prospect. But then, all of a sudden, the pandemic hit us. Confronted with the unprecedented shocks and challenges, Chinese filmmakers never gave up their pursuit and exploration of the film industry. So, in the Spring Festival, we have already seen the answers of Chinese filmmakers. When we entered into a new stage in the post-pandemic era, the quick recovery of films is the top concern of all filmmakers in China. And what is urgently needed in the Chinese film industry? We need a rescue, and we need a proof of our confidence in the market. So, the films marketed during the Spring Festival season is our answer, because we usually think that those films would represent the trend this year. And indeed, they never failed us, like the Wandering Earth and the Full River Red and so on. They have made a good presence in the market. They allowed us to see the vigor in Chinese film market. The film industry in China has remained true to its initial mission, and it benefited from a good fundamental and a good basis. Particularly, Chinese filmgoers are still enthusiastic about films. The box office was 6.7 billion previously, and in the end, it exceeded 10 billion. Particularly, 129 million people went to the theaters to watch the movies during the Spring Festival only. So, let's rethink about this. For the filmgoers to go back to the movie theaters to watch movies, that is a huge encouragement to us filmmakers. It speaks to a truth that only with good films there will be the box office, and in return, the films could survive and thrive in the long run. That means we must continue our efforts in making good films so as to meet people's aspiration for better lives. That is everything for all the filmmakers. We must double our efforts on our part, and we sincerely call upon all of you guys to continue your support of China's film industry. Thank you. Now let's invite the third group of members. Self-introduction. Hello, I'm CPPCC member, the head of Oncology Hospital of Guangdong Provincial People's Hospital, Zhou Qing.
I'm the CPPCC member. I'm the first secretary of the Huashi County of the Anhui Province, Yujing. Good afternoon, I'm the CPPCC member. I'm the head of the Guangxi International Export Bureau, Wei Zhaohui.
Now the floor is open to questions and answers.
Thank you.
From CMG, my question goes to Zhou Qing. Now, malignant tumor has become the key threat to people's health, and the patients usually visited the big hospitals in large cities for treatment. And that is a huge burden on them. How can we reduce the burden on the households while delivering premium services and products to those patients? Thank you for the question. I'm in the business of the cancer treatment. Whenever we talk about tumor, people frown upon it. So the first thought on their mind pop out, which is to go to the big hospitals in the big cities. But now we can make it a reality to receive treatment in the closest hospital. Not long ago, we have a online platform, and I met one of my patients coming from a county in Hebei province. It's a Granny Zhang, and she suffered from malignant tumor in her lung. And to receive treatment, her granddaughter took her to Guangzhou. They rented a house and they were ready to fight against the cancer for long. After 3 months of treatment, she has stabilized his situation. But then, Ms. Li realized that actually her grandmother could receive such services in the grassroots hospital in her hometown. So she took her grandmother back. Now it's been 3 years already, and she's still in good shape. Now with our 5G internet hospital online, we maintain our connection with her. And she has just celebrated her 80th birthday with 4 generations of family members gathering together. That was a miniature of the cancer patients with happiness and sorrows. As we know, malignant tumor is a huge disease. According to the data, every year in the village areas, the newly reported tumor account for 40% of the total. So that is a huge demand of treatment. And with technological development, malignant tumor requires long-term treatment. We aim to turn it into a chronic disease with technological support. So the national government is implementing hierarchical diagnosis and treatment system. The National Health Commission has also introduced a campaign to develop the oncology hospitals in county levels to have early discovery, early screening, and have the equal services at different levels. Take one county level hospital as an example that I was responsible for. That hospital has a very comprehensive supply of personnel and technologies and equipment. It could deliver one-stop screening, follow-up visit, health management, and treatment services. I believe that in the future, with standardized development of such treatment and diagnosis, and with more county-level hospitals developed, we can scale up our services delivered to those patients suffering from malignant tumor. Thank you.
Next question, please.
好，东西这位戴眼镜的女记者。
好的，谢谢主持人。我是农民日报全媒体记
With
者。我
agriculture
的问题
paper,
想提给
my
于静
question
委
is
员。
to Yu
党的
Jin.
20大首次提
CC
出要加
20th
快建设农
CPPCC
业
National
强国，
Congress will
加快
emphasize
建
the
设农业
importance to
强
build
国
China
与
into
全
strong
面推
nation
进
in
乡村振
agriculture.
兴一脉
This
相
is
承。
also related
那
to
想
the
请问您，自全面推进乡
revitalization.
村振兴以来，大
So
湾
since
村有着
we
怎样的变
promote the
化？
rural
您认为
revitalization,
在
what
这个过
changes
程中，
we see
大湾
in
村
the
的信
Dawan
心和底
village?
气又来自
So
于哪
where
里？
does this
谢谢。
confidence come from in Dawan village? Thank you.
谢谢农民日报记者的提问。
Thank you for your
我
question.
来自大别山革命老区
I'm from
安
a
徽省六安
revolutionary
市
base,
金寨县花石乡大湾村。
花石 Township,
我是一名基层
Dawan
干部，
village
在
in
大湾村
Anhui
8年。
province.
让我
Actually,
体
I'm
会
a
最深的
grassroots
是，
official.
农村
I
发
have
展
been
最
staying
大的
here
底
for
气
8 years.
来自于
I
党
think
和
the
政策，
confidence from us
做
is
好
actually
制度，
coming from the
党员
policy
带
from
头
the
干，
party,
村民
and
干
also
出头。
all of the work has been led by the
2016
CPC
年4月
members.
24日，是我和大湾村老百姓终身难忘的日子。
On April the 24th, 2016, this is a memorable day because on that day, General Secretary Xi Jinping visited the Dawan village.
让我们备
He
受
taught to us and gave us a
7年
lot
来
of
我们牢
encouragement.
记总书记的嘱托，
7 years on,
党组织
we still
带着党
remember
员
the
冲在
guidance from
前，
General
苦在
Secretary
前，
Xi
带
Jinping.
着
For the
村民一
CPC
起干。
members, they lead the
昔日的
villages
贫困
and
村，
conduct
现
our
如今
work.
也是旧貌
So
换
in the
新颜。
past, we are an impoverished village,
大湾
but right
村
now
地
we
处
have
高
a
寒山
brand
区，
new look.
有种
So
茶
for
制茶
the
的传统，
Dawan village,
茶叶
we
品质虽好，
specialize
但因
for
为地方
tea
偏
making.
僻，很多
But this
村民
place
只
is
能
quite
自产自销，
remote. For
形
some
成
of
不
the
了品
villages,
牌，更
they
卖不
grow
上
the
价格。
teas, but they are not
为
able
此，
to
我
sell
们新建
all
了
of
一
these
座现
teas.
代化茶厂，
Yeah, right now,
还
we're
引
able
进了
to
龙头
build
茶企，
a tea
不仅
factory,
解
and
决
also we are
全
working with the
村
leading
茶叶加工销售的难
tea
题，还为村民
enterprises,
提供了
and
很多
this will
经济
help
就
us
业
to
岗位。
process the
同
tea
时，
and
我
also
们也
create
带
a
头
lot of
发展了
jobs
小
for the
香
local
薯、
villages.
蜜野等
At
多
the same
项
time, we
特
are
色产品
also
发展，
develop a number of
立足当地
featured
实际。
industries.
我们努力把生态优势
In
转
such
化为发展
context,
优
we are
势，
able
让
to
绿水
turn
青
some
山
of our
变成金山
ecology
银山，
into
明确
our
山上种茶，
real
家中
economy,
迎客，
making
红
sure
绿结
that
合的
we
发
could
展思路，
ensure that
渐
we
渐
could
趟出
have
一条茶女融合
a
发展
great
的致富路子。
future. So backed by the green and the environmental resources, we are able to build a lot of landscape programs and also the museums in the Daban village, and also we are able to build a B&B here. And in the past, we are able to receive over 350 visitors, and also this will help us to increase the income for the local villagers. So for one of our villagers is a little bit above like 40-year-old. He is quite shy, but he have a big ambition. 8 years ago, he come back and also renovate his house to a 3-story house, and he is the first one to build a hostel, a bed and breakfast in the village. And also, he is the first one to receive a certificate as a tour guide. He always said that in such a great era, if we work hard, we will have a better life. So right now when we are coming to the Dawan village, when I look at the sceneries in Dawan village, and actually we are the contributors for the development of Dawan village. And this time I come to Beijing to attend the 2 sessions, and also the villagers want to say that we have a better life right now. Please rest assured, General Secretary, we will continue to build our village into a better one. Thank you. Next question, please. Thank you. The China's paper, my question is to Wei Zhaohui. This year, this is the 6th year we built a new international land sea corridor. So, what some of the achievements we have made in the past 6 years? So, what benefits have been brought to the ASEAN countries and the Western cities in China? Thank you for your support. So, I work for the China ASEAN Expo. It is a very important platform in China, because the China ASEAN Expo will help to build a community of shared future for mankind. Right now, we have successfully held over 19 exports, the China ASEAN Expo, and also we have over 1.1 million vendors attended the expo. This will also help to build the network for the new international land sea trade corridor. With the free trade zone development, now you could see for some of the fruits, some of the daily necessities, we are able to sell these products in China and also abroad. And all of these vendors, they are quite interested about all of these products. This is thanks to the organization of the China ASEAN Expo. So we kicked off the construction of the new international land sea corridor in 2017. Actually, it connects with the 21st Silk Road corridor. And this is a very important trade corridor. This will also help to connect the economic corridor. So for Singapore, we really want to sell some of the products to China. However, we have a very long journey. However, after we open this land sea corridor, for the cost, it has been reduced by 30%. And also for the transportation time, it also has been reduced by over 10 days. So for the China ASEAN export, we are able to bring over 30 types of products in China. So right now, for the land sea corridor has covered over 319 ports. It can provide good services to different nations, and it is a very important trade corridor in China connecting the world. And also we have different railways, so we're able to transport these overseas products to different parts of China. And because of this corridor, we are able to sell the NEVs and also the specialized and the featured fruits to the ASEAN countries as well as the world, backed by the favorable policies, and this will help us to further open up the Western cities in China, and also it will help to bring more benefits to the ASEAN countries. And this year, it is the first year to implement the spirit from the 20th Party's Congress. We also able to have the 20th, the China-ASEAN Export. We will continue to speed up our efforts for the cooperation and bring more benefits to the world. Thank you.
感谢各位记者朋友。
Thank you.
今年的3场委员通道采访活动到此全部结束。
So right now we have completed all the 3 members' corridor.
谢谢大家。
See you next year.
8 members, 8 political advisors have spoken at this session, Mama, of the members' corridor, talking about their observance and their insight into their respective field. We've had everything from green development to economic recovery to the film market to flexible employment and to the treatment of tumors, really offering insight into what they care about the most.
Very
and the
diverse backgrounds.
Development trends and challenges they encounter with their work here. Let's talk about all of this with our studio guests, Professors Liu Baocheng and Rick Denham. Professor Liu, let me go straight to your department about economic recovery. Some of the members today have mentioned that they're hopeful, they're optimistic about the recovery, given the numbers made available to them from January to February. But then you have this Spring Festival inserted in this period, so people are more willing to travel, they're more willing to spend. Does that really represent the trend we're going to see this year? What is your take on the potential of economic rebound, the extent and the sustainability based on what we've seen in the first 2 months this year?
Well, last 3 years was the most difficult ones for all economic performers, and particularly the service sector was probably the largest victim. So right now, with the turning the page of the COVID-0 policy, while we still maintain caution over health preservation, people's productivity and people's urge for consumption are really being unleashed to a historical height, I should say. So over the past 2 months, we can see that a traffic jam is back. And the people are willing to get together, and then more of the investors are there to gather their money to invest, and the government is also putting up more of the subsidies to really deliver to those small and medium-sized businesses. And workers are happy in traveling to their work lines and all this. So definitely we're going to do far better and even rebelliously better than what we had last year, because last year we achieved 3% growth that was historical low over so many decades, and now we're going to achieve more than 5%. There's no surprise about it. But of course, we have to be careful about one is that balance the ecological conservation with the economic growth, and also we have to be watchful about the global recession that may have a negative impact on Chinese export drive.
Professor Denham, can I get your take on this also? We are hopeful because what we've seen in the first 2 months this year has suggested an automatic recovery from the very low base that we witnessed last year due to COVID and everything. But is this sustainable? What should we be watching out for when we talk about the Chinese economy?
I think that the first couple of months turbocharged an economic recovery, but it is definitely not guaranteed. And I think there are 3 factors. One is domestic consumption. I mean, consumer confidence, Chinese people spending on products particularly made in China, and traveling. The second is out of the control of China, and that is what happens in Ukraine after the Russian invasion, and it had a lot of negative impact on GDP and GDP in Europe. So I think the global factors that are outside of the control of the Chinese government, this would not hit China specifically, but it would hit the entire world. And then the third is some of these policies to turbocharge, to continue the growth, the green technology, green energy, specific initiatives. How many of them get implemented, and do we see payoff immediately? Do we see payoff over the next 10 months
I think the other
year's?
thing is also the debt distress in many of the local provinces, because that is why the Chinese recent reform, particularly after the 2 sessions, will be there to target to the alleviation of the debt distress and make clear that all the budget are really within control. And many of those, shadow banking and illegal financial platforms are also the target for elimination. So it's going to be a challenging task to clean up some of the dirty laundries left over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. After 3 difficult COVID years, we saw that people are, starting to spend their money again, and then tourism is also bouncing back. But it perhaps takes time for, the government as well as the different sectors in society to fully restore consumer confidence.
Right. Yeah, I think it's more like a rehabilitation process for someone who got ill. So they got to be very careful in making baby steps moving forward. For example, when I do not really get the right type of guarantee to have the access and also to have the reimbursement of the medical bills, and now I have to save something just in case. And second is that the housing price is still extremely high. And there is more of the hope that the government is going to support the real estate development, but the recovery is also rather gradual. And then also because we are in a rapid transformation for high quality development, but we see that Chinese labor advantage is diminishing. In the meantime, how people can be given more of the more advanced or upgraded skills to match the high quality development. So these are really something that have a lot more opportunities, but in the meantime, we encounter immediate challenge.
Yeah. Professor Ho, that thought will. Let's talk about this as we wait for our reporter to give us an update from the Great Hall of the People. It's funny you mentioned traffic jams. People aren't normally very excited to see traffic jams, but these days you are reminded that's a great sign that things are going back to normality, and everyone, I'm talking about everyone, has a stake in the economy going back to its normal tracks. Professor, can we talk about what is known as flexible employment? Professor Liu here. We just heard from one of the advisors that by the end of 2021, freelancers hit the number of over 200 million. Those were 2021 numbers. Yeah. Is it safe to assume that more people are now working on a freelance basis because of COVID? Is it a good thing for the economy in this recovery mode because people can keep themselves busy and people have income this way or the other?
Yeah.
Well, we have to be careful about this conception because you have to scrutinize whether these people have choices. Okay, if they voluntarily choose among many other choices to be a freelancer, that's perfect. And also that, and then you also need to take care of what they do as a freelancer. If the freelancer is just simply delivering meals, or if the freelancer is there to draw cartoons, to write scripts for the movies, or to give more of the knowledge-intensive consulting, and that is great. So the other thing is that we have to take care of the pressure of employment. Particularly, we have nearly 10 million graduates on a yearly basis. So how these people get the right type of job. And now we do see that more of the young people are looking for more of the security instead of instead of efficiency, and that is why they all are crammed on the one road to be a government officer. And so really to encourage the high quality, voluntary freelancer, and also to support of the startups which really have hope and they can really break the box and set up a uncertain but more promising future. And this is something that can be very healthy.
Professor Dunham, I know you will want to weigh in on this also.
Right.
Let me get an update from a reporter first and come back to you in just a few moments' time. And if you're just joining us here, you're watching our special coverage of this year's CPPCC session. National Committee Chairman Wang Huning will be delivering final remarks in a few moments. We'll stay on top of that for you.
Yeah, and as we wait for that to happen, let's get the latest from our reporter Chen Ziyuan. Oh, Ziyuan, good to see you. You've been covering the meetings over the past week. Walk us through some of the highlights in this year's session.
Well, it's quite a windy day, but we got a full house here today at the members' corridor. It's the third, but also the last one for this year's annual session of the CPPCC. I raised a question to members who is representing the environment and resource sector. He talks about how China has been sharing its experience with the world in terms of green energy development and transformation. And you have been hearing a lot of stories, as some of our guests has talked about, flexible employment and also how to add, for example, insurance benefit for them. So these are some of the topics that are being touched on at the members' corridor. But in terms of what happened in the past week, very busy schedule. So with the opening and also upcoming closing session, there are three major gatherings at the Great Hall of the People, as they are here to elect, for example, the chairperson, also vice chairperson of the 14th National Committee of CPPCC, and also a Secretary General is being elected. And in addition to that, I want to share with you that this is not the end of their working progress. What they're going to do is that they will be returned to their working position. They will be hearing more voices from the people and also really considering, for example, some of the major topics that have been touching on, including population and also the rights of those child of unmarried women, how to ensure their household registration being taken care of. This is from one of the topics that I've talked to with one of the members here, and also how to add employment opportunity for young people in the Greater Bay Area, and also some of the housing problem, for example, skyrocket housing prices in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, and some of the opportunities that they are offering at the Greater Bay Area, and bringing and hoping to encourage more young people to join into the effort in terms of the China's modernization progress. So this is something that we are listening here at the CPPCC, and some of the members saying that they are looking forward to more works being done in the area, and definitely they will bring more voices during their working progress here. Back to you in studio.
Thanks so much, our Chen Ziyuan, following the latest for us there.
And let's get back to our studio conversation with our guests here. Professor Dunham, back to the topic of freelancers in the Chinese economy. Statistics officials love freelancers because they help to keep unemployment numbers down. But at a time of economic vulnerability and recovery, freelancers face the problem, the challenges of finding work at this time of difficulty. What would you say is their role in this time and period as China's economy continues to rebound?
Well, I see, this is a major economic trend globally. It's known globally as the gig economy. People who are taking jobs freelance as opposed to a full-time salary. Some do it intentionally for the flexibility. Some do it because they have to. And it's particularly big as an issue in East Asia, Southeast Asia, and China in particular. It's probably the biggest in the world. One of the causes that's problematic is that there's so many highly educated people. The advances in the education system in China have led to so many college graduates without a commensurate rise in the jobs for them. And so full-time jobs are difficult. And so a lot of these people are entrepreneurial. The young people are entrepreneurial. They figure out ways to survive, use the skills that they have. You're right. You pointed out there are challenges. I mean, to me, number one challenge is the lack of a steady income. I mean, the second is healthcare. I mean, they're not covered as they would be with the jobs, and if they want to get health insurance coverage, it's going to be more expensive as individuals. The third is housing. I mean, housing is a challenge in a lot of the big cities and a lot of the the students have come from big cities or gone to school in big cities. So again, it's something that has to be addressed, and the key is this is something that policymakers have to think about. This may not be on top of their mind right now, but questions like they got today really tell you that this is important, and they have to start addressing it, figure out how to do it, how to adjust the Chinese economy to try to create more jobs for these people, and also how to make this kind of gig economy, freelance, more manageable for young people who decide to go that way.
Professor Liu, where are the policy makers on this? Are they encouraging people, young people, to go freelance? Should they be encouraging, because China has over 10 million college graduates every year? At a time like this, should policymakers be encouraging people to go freelance?
Well, all politicians care about three things. One is social stability, the other is economic growth, and third is unemployment issues. So, freelancers can really reduce the pressure on employment. Of course, they encourage them. But I think a more responsible manner would be how to encourage them to have more added value in their freelance work. Therefore, how do they receive the right type of education? How do they really build distinctive advantages in some of the permanent job that cannot really deliver, and also that how they can really build a informal type of social network so that they feel that they are still part of the society and they are still part in the loop of a regular service. And then, these people as how they can really continue to advance over their career, and more importantly, how they can really have a choice if they really wanted to give up their freelance work.
Mm-hmm. Well, policymakers are looking at two things perhaps. One is to provide sufficient jobs for graduates, for young job seekers, for the entire population. And then the other hand, they want to make sure that they have a complete social security net to keep them to provide incentives for them. But then how does the private sector fit in here? Will there be more opportunities provided by the private sector in terms of addressing the employment issue, Mr. Donham?
Well, I think the private sector is going to be driven by the profit motive. And so I think right now there's a lot of caution in hiring, and some of the tech companies, which were the drivers of employment for young people, are cutting back or holding off on hiring. So that leads people toward, at least temporarily, toward freelance. I do think as economic growth picks up, then there will be more full-time jobs. I mean, I do think most of the people who are freelance want to transition to a full-time job, but at times of slower economic growth, there are more freelance. And so I think that we're in that period starting at the beginning of the pandemic through now. And I think we have to take care of those people as they are now, but also figure out the transitions to try to get the economy moving again at a high enough growth rate so that they're absorbed into jobs.
Yeah, and also when students seek my advice as how they can really place their career, normally I discourage them to join the either public office or state-owned companies, because they can easily feel the glass ceiling for promotion, and also they can also be spoiled in with type of the pigeonhole. So therefore, I encourage them to when you're young, because you cannot really when you're standing on the floor, you don't really be afraid of falling. So therefore, try something that is uncertain but is more promising and there's more opportunity. So do not go for security, but go for efficiency and go for something that is really uncertain. So that's if you when you're young, you do not really face those challenges, you never have hope in your life. So therefore, private sector is the one, or entrepreneurship.
All right, gentlemen, now let's also take a look at this. The Chinese government is promoting more research into the clean and efficient use of coal. Liu Zhongmin, an academician of the Chinese Academy of Engineering, is an expert in this field. And as a member of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, he proposed that China should deepen international cooperation in energy and strengthen the transformation of scientific and technological achievements. And he explained to our reporter Feng Yilei how he believes it is possible to achieve both industrial development and carbon reduction goals.
It is not a matter of breaking down an old world and building a new one. Instead, industrial development and carbon reduction are compatible. The increase in our total energy demand is a rigid demand. Fossil energy use will gradually decrease in proportion, but does not mean that the absolute amount will decrease. The critical issue is how to use fossil fuels as clean as possible without simply reducing their production. So it needs a technological breakthrough that connects all kinds of energy sources to form a system. At the policy level, it is necessary to unite various industries and companies, namely coal, oil, natural gas, photovoltaic, wind. They each have industrial plans, but need to be coordinated at the top level to achieve the national goals. I believe our basic industries should become low carbon and also intelligent to meet the standards of modernization and support the long-term and healthy development of the country. As the whole world faces the same challenge, we need to strengthen international cooperation, but the premise is that we must ensure the safety of our energy security in terms of industrial chain and supply chain.
Let's get back to our studio conversations. Professor Liu, just now you used the word balance between economic recovery and our carbon reduction goals. I mean, there are concerns that as Chinese economy slows down in this year of recovery, that our climate change objectives and carbon reduction goals can take the back seat here. Are there immediate and short-term concerns for you?
Well, I think we have two very much outstanding issues which are both curse and blessing. The blessing part is that we have a lot of coal. So our energy portfolio is still heavily dependent on the burning of the coal, which is really double the world average. And the other issue is the manufacturing business, because China has the biggest industrial might. And we are strong in our supply chain around the globe. But in the meantime, we have to consume a lot more energy because we make TVs, we make shoes, we make governments for the whole world. And so China is substantially the global factory. And so, but right now, how we can really, number one, to increase the energy efficiency. I think that's the immediate task, because to produce one GDP and how much energy do we really need to consume. So that's something that we have to go for. The other, of course, is to develop more of the renewable energy, but that's a gradual process and it needs a large amount of capital, the input. So therefore, there should not be a rush. And actually, over the last 2 years, there has been, the extreme type of campaign to eliminate those, the power plant, the coal-driven power plants, and which was really not very appropriate. So it must be very much of a calculated base. Then, as we have discussed, that to achieve a balanced and harmonious growth and synchronize the growth and also our commitment to carbon.
Yeah. All right, now let's get some latest information from the ongoing session of the CPPCC. Members are voting on political resolutions during the closing session, and they've just passed a work report from the Standing Committee.
Also available now, the members have just passed a proposal-related work report. We'll bring all of these information to you as soon as it becomes available. And our studio conversation continues now. Professor Dunham, it's very interesting. One of the reporters at the Members' Corridor now mentioned whether China had wisdom to share with the world when it comes to green development. China is leading in a number of things, wind power, photovoltaic. But is China at a position to really share what it has accomplished in its pursuit and aspirations to go green with the world right now? What does China need at this point to not slow down its carbon reduction goals in the phase of economic slowdown?
First, it has to, and it must continue with the green energy initiatives. I think it's important both for practical reasons. China, you're right, did take the lead on a lot of these technologies and is a global leader. So it's important for the world in terms of manufacturing, but it's also important in terms of symbolism. The United States, because it is a democracy and there's a sort of messy democratic system, has forward and backward movement, and there's a lot of resistance, institutional resistance from powerful energy companies, fossil fuel companies, to green energy. China can show the world how important it is to move forward consistently and steadily. I do think because of economic slowdown, you may want to slow down the transition in some of the manufacturing from fossil fuel to green energy, but you must continue developing the technologies. And for China, I think it's important both symbolically and realistically to be a world leader in everything from wind, solar, to electric vehicles and the infrastructure for electric cars around the world. So I think it's both symbolic and real, and it must continue even if there is slower economic growth and a slower transition within China to non-fossil fuels.
And
well, actually,
yes.
Yesterday I was in a meeting for the decarbonization on the consumer end. So I was really stunned that the consumption part contributes to 53% of carbon emission. So therefore, the carbon inclusion program is being launched by the Ministry of Ecological Resource Department. So I think that's very important because they do not only contribute to 53%, and they can also be there to leverage on the supply side, because consumers, if they really are being educated to the point, they do not only are there to save more of the energy and save more of the resources, but they can push and demand the businesses to behave more of themselves in exercising their social responsibility to care more about the environment. So a network is in shape in China, so that the consumers are really there to be linked with the suppliers, so that they can really streamline the supply chain on decarbonization. I think this is a great experience China can really share with the rest of the world. And the other is also connectivity, because the Belt and Road is committed to connectivity. Only when people are getting more connected, they can really learn and share experiences, and also they save more of the energies. So there are a lot. And I think one outstanding feature is that every year I've been involved in the training program for environmental officials around the Belt and Road countries, and they come and we show them to some of the recycling plants and tell them that how to manage along the supply chain on energy saving and also on emission reduction. And they are there to really learn quite a lot. And together we work, we identify projects that we can really work with China for better efficiency and for better environmental friendliness.
And there's now a renewed focus on technological innovation in the sense to promote green development and to reduce carbon emissions. Mr. Dunham, how do you think that technological innovation could help realize those, climate goals?
Well, I'll give you an example of my apartment at Tsinghua University. When I returned from the United States to be on campus, I got a new refrigerator. It is the most energy efficient kind of refrigerator that you can get. It was green at the top of the list of energy efficiency. That's an obvious way. In little ways, it's encouraging consumers. It's encouraging businesses. Maybe even having incentives for businesses to adopt. But I do think also there has to be an infrastructure that is built to make good choices easier to do. And I'll go to my campus again, and an example is that there is not an easy recycling system. We still put everything in one place, and people have to individually take things out if they want to recycle bottles or cans. To create a system where it is economically viable to have recycling companies, and that's one where the free market alone does not work. You have to have government, public-private cooperation. So I think it's a combination of public education and incentives for both individuals to act the right way, for companies to make decisions that are more environmentally friendly as they make purchasing decisions moving forward.
Now you just made me feel bad as I reflect back on the label on my refrigerator. I think I'm at the second highest level. I'm not the most efficient, but I've had that.
Upgraded.
I've had that for a number of years now. Maybe I should just get a new one. Thank you for that information, though. Professor Liu, you talked about the continuous optimizing of China's energy structure. We've been talking about that for a number of years now. Can you shed light on maybe just a progress report on China's continued optimization of the energy structure? And will the international backdrop here, the international contest here, propel China to go faster with its transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy, greener energy here?
Yeah, 5 years ago, nearly 60% of the energy was generated by burning the coal, but now we are close to 50%. So that's a great reduction on the reliance on the coal burning. And second, from the digging holes in the ground for the coal now to the washing of the coal, technologies are being introduced so that emission is far being reduced. And also there are technological devices that can really control the emission and also collect those emissions to get them recycled. And now if you look at Beijing, there are far less chimneys within Beijing, and even there are chimneys, the smoke is really completely white, which means they are gas, they are not really CO2. And then China actually makes the largest reservoir of solar panels around the world, and also 90% of them are really exported to Europe, and now we can see more of the big cluster of solar panels in the sub-Saharan Africa. And so the decisive one is also on the hydropower. We are not only having the biggest, the Three Gorges hydropower station, and also we have a hydropower station on the Yellow River. And when I visited Ecuador, actually China was there, built a superb the hydropower to help them. Actually, when I fly over the sky in the night, it is Ecuador who is really becoming a pro of light for the entire Caribbean area. And now we're also helping Cambodia to do the work. So, China is not only there to do it, for its own sake, but particularly help the Belt and Road to really to have more of the clean energy-driven growth model. And now nuclear is also the big choice, because China has indigenous innovation in the recycling of those nuclear energies, and also to boost more efficiency as compared with the top-notch technology around the world. And so that's why we are also supporting the nuclear reactor construction for civil use in many parts of the world, even in the Arab area.
Chinese wisdom and Chinese experiences shared with the rest of the world right there. And this just in from the Great Hall of the People also, members have just approved an amendment to the CPPCC Charter, and we'll talk about all of that with our guests here in the studio. Gentlemen, I want to have both of you look ahead into our agenda today. A lot of changes with the CPPCC this year. These changes are happening right now. We're awaiting a speech, closing remarks from the new CPPCC National Committee Chairman. Members have just approved an amendment to the CPPCC Charter. This year, an environment sector has been added to the CPPCC mechanism. Professor Liu, can I have you talk about how the CPPCC will be different from this point on? What more changes can we anticipate, and how will they make people's lives different, essentially?
Well, first of all, CPPCC actually is the part of the Chinese whole process democracy, and they are composed of many other non-ruling parties, but they are composed, I should say, more of the social elites in different sectors of the entire Chinese society, and they can bring more convincing arguments in the bill proposition. And they actually are there to be more professional in dealing with many of the social affairs, from science to community management. I think one thing that is very impressive is that they brought up one is the how we can really cater more to the business environment so that China can maintain its competitiveness, and also how we can really support the foreign investment in China and together with the private sectors, because there have been some headwinds against them when the global tension, particularly now with the bilateral tension between China and the United States, is being intensified. So, and the other is that how they can really, again, balance the ecological conservation versus economic growth. And they brought up very effective ideas like technological breakthrough, particularly in the area of power storage capacity. And there has been really, the light at the end of the tunnel as how China can really, achieve a great breakthrough. I think the third one is that, which is very impressive, is the along the rural revitalization program, they brought up a harmonious and a beautiful rural development program, meaning that it's not only there to clean the environment, to return the blue sky and green water, but also to make how neighbors can really get along well and get more friendly with each other, and so that they can really they maintain their virtues of tradition, but in the meantime to step up with the new development of the Chinese society in a new era.
It's interesting to see how China defines some of the subjective concepts. For example, the Beautiful China initiative, as you mentioned. China of course, has very ambitious climate change targets.
Now they call it harmonious and beautiful.
That's right. What will be some of the defining criteria? We'll talk about that when we come back. And this is latest from the ongoing session. The members have just passed a report on examining proposal-related work. Now, as we speak, the political advisors, are now, fulfilling the items on today's agenda, and we'll get to that very soon. So, Professor, we were talking about the Beautiful China initiative. While China has very ambitious climate goals, for example, carbon neutrality and carbon peak by a certain period of time, how would you define the Beautiful China? What are some of the defining criteria in order to make that to happen?
I think this is very significant for the high quality development for the Chinese rural area. For the years, there has been excessive use of pesticides and fertilizer. I came from the countryside, and I care about the countryside, and it is not as beautiful as before, I should say, although the productivity has been really increased dramatically. So therefore, we have to have a sort of a U-turn while we continue to boost the productivity, but to reduce the use of those pesticides and fertilizer and on a scientific basis. So the number two is that how we can really restore and improve the fertility of the land. So some of the trees are not really friendly to the soil. So we have to tell the farmers that what type of trees can get more harmonious with your crop and also with your living environment. And 3 is that farmers used to burn the wood and also burn the grass and stalks for cooking. But right now, connectivity of gas into individual household, this is a big achievement for China. And so, my nephew is still living in the countryside, and he's for the first time in history, for the last 5,000 years, now they have access to gas. So the other is the water, because we have uneven development of water resources. In the south, there have been too much rain, or there could be flood. But in the north, there can be seasons of drought. So Chinese, irrigation system bring water from south to the north can solve the problem. But the key is that how the north can, have the right type of way, either a reservoir or wetland, to preserve the water during the rainy seasons. And then, institutional reform. So individual households, they get very motivated to work very hard to have more crops, but if they are confined to only 3 acres of land, you cannot really employ large machines to do it. Now, I think institutional reform is underway, and very rapidly, for the rural revitalization program, so that they can really have a collectivized operation on voluntary basis, participated by individual households. And in this way, they can boost productivity, but also they can be more scientific based to preserve the rural environment.
The principles are actually quite straightforward here. China wants higher level development, which means you can no longer sacrifice the environment and the ecology just to satisfy economic growth numbers. In that process, China wants to solidify the Chinese path to modernization, also emphasizing the importance of conserving ecology and protecting the environment. Professor Dunham here. Professor Liu talked about the changes that have to take place in rural China. But for the farmers to implement those changes, what will be their incentives? What will be some of the obstacles they encounter here? What help will they further be needing from the government as they complete that transition, as they seek to do things differently here?
Well, you're right. We are seeing a rebalancing of priorities. For recent decades, economic growth was the most important, and poverty alleviation. And it came at quite a cost environmentally in some of these areas. The challenge now is, as we rebalance and move toward more environmentally friendly development in rural areas, is really to make it affordable for farmers. I mean, these people don't earn a lot of money, don't have a lot of capital to invest. So there has to be a way to give them access to some of the environmentally friendly equipment and develop some kinds of economies of scale so that they can that they can continue to grow their farms and their incomes and use some of the technology that is environmentally friendly, but would not be affordable for an average person or a poor to middle income farmer. So I think there have to be both plans in local communities and in rural areas, and incentives, and probably some direct aid as well.
Yeah, and the way of farming has essentially changed in the countryside as
Right.
China embarks on this
Exactly.
modernization drive. The farming is getting greener, as you mentioned, and also smarter. There's a lot of technology involved in modern day farming. AI, remote sensoring, irrigation system, etc., are all being upgraded to meet the needs of today. And I was traveling to Hainan province. We were talking about scientific breeding, and there's a lot of technology involved in this process to try to come up with the best seed variety and to increase crop yields as well.
Yes, I think farmers, when it comes to their immediate interest, they get very smart. So, in order to push them to turn from burning the wood and burning the stock to use the gas, if individual household accept the gas, the gas burner is free. So therefore they get very motivated. And second, they normally hesitate for any uncertain outcome. So you build the right type of pilot plot. And then, okay, next year you show the farmers, okay, you see the crop gain more productivity, and then they will follow you. So then also that the key is how can you really identify the market for their yields. So one is that the local produce. If you really found the right logistics and get the right market, you'll be the king for them. And third is that give them the right technology to get more, to add value to the process. For example, to make canned fruits and to make the marinated pepper. And so that's something that the farmers will welcome. Only giving them the empty theories, or how important your work is to the national security, they don't really listen too much about it. So real interest motivates them to work harder and work smarter.
I know some of your family, as you mentioned, still lives in rural China. Can you talk to us about what revitalization means for them? We've discussed the environmental aspect of things, the technological upgrades for modern-day farmers, but this concept of revitalization goes beyond that. Obviously, China has lifted a lot of people out of extreme poverty, but helping them out of extreme poverty is not the end goal here. There are still poor to mid-income farmers. They deserve a better life. They aspire to a better, more affluent lives. So what does revitalization entail for China's farmers?
In the old days, when I was a kid, I could share the same pause with all the farmers. During the harvest time, people have very mixed feeling. They see their crops are there, but they also get freaked out. Oh, I'm going to have backache, by harvesting the crop on a manual basis with sickles. I suffered from that, and then now machines, harvesters are there, so they get very much alleviated from all the physical fatigue that they suffer. Actually, for the older generation, many of those illnesses are derived from overwork and fatigue through the manual work, and now they are far better. Second, irrigation. So you used to live on the wells, dig holes in the ground, and now the irrigation system is much over there over the pipeline. They save the water, and also they also help the control over the fertility and the quantity of the water supply. And third is that the infrastructure development, meaning that before you ride donkeys, to the market, and now you can all Chinese farmers, even in those remote areas, they not only have tractors, they also have cars. They can just, within several minutes, they just get into the market and sell their produce. And then also the internet helped them a great deal. They know for a better world, where do they really have the high yield seeds, where is the type of pesticide that can be
Professor,
friendly.
hold your thoughts. We're going to come back to this, but news just in, and we're going to go live signal from the closing session of the CPPCC.
Fellow members, comrades, the first session of the 14th National Committee of CPPCC has completed all the items on the agenda with the joint efforts of all members and is coming to a successful conclusion. The CPC Central Committee put high premium on this conference, and the General Secretary of CPC Central Committee, National President, Chairman of the Central Military Commission, Xi Jinping, and other party and government leaders and comrades attended the opening and closing ceremonies. They met the members and were part of the group discussions to explore the state affairs together with all members. The fellow members spoke highly of the historical achievements and transformations ever since the 18th National Congress in terms of the party and the national undertakings. They have deeply comprehended the decisive significance of the two establishments and have maintained full confidence of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation with the promotion of Chinese modernization. Fellow members carefully studied the important address by General Secretary Xi Jinping on the occasions of discussion with the China Democratic National Construction Association and the Association of Industry and Commerce. They have read into the government work report and other reports, deliberated on the work report of the Standing Committee of CPPCC, the CPPCC Constitution Amendment drafts, and others with rich outputs. So this is a conference that champions democracy, unity, practicality, and clean governance. It is a full demonstration of the special edges and vitality of the whole process people's democracy in China. We would love to express our sincere thanks to the confidence delivered to us by all members and for electing us as the members of the Standing Committee of the 14th National Committee of CPPCC. The 14th National Committee of CPPCC will continue our work on top of the previous sessions. Over the past 5 years, under the strong leadership of CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping as its core and led by Comrade Wang Yang, the 13th National Committee of CPPCC firmly held on to the two themes of unity and democracy and fulfilled their responsibilities as to the central tasks of the party and the nation. It has given full play to the role of CPPCC as the dedicated consultative organ to spur the development of CPPCC cause in innovation and inheritance, making due contribution to the development of the party and the national undertakings. Let us pay our sincere respect to Comrade Wang Yang and all members of the 13th National Committee of CPPCC. Fellow members, comrades, the 20th National Congress depicted a grand blueprint of building the great modern socialist country and achieve great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation with Chinese modernization. It called for the new journey, and on this new journey, the CPPCC will carry the glorious mission and huge responsibilities. To that end, we must be continue guided by the socialism with Chinese characteristics in this new era proposed by Xi Jinping and study the spirits of the 20th National Congress. We must unswervingly follow the full leadership of CPC and comprehend the two establishments, strengthen four consciousnesses, and adhere to four confidences and two upholds. We must continue to improve the multi-party cooperation and political consultation systems under the CPC leadership and adhere to the party leadership, united front, and consultative development and democracy. We must also pay our duties and fulfill our responsibilities by keeping to the big picture so as to further execute the arrangements of the CPC Central Committee and its requirements of CPPCC. And we must pull together the wisdom and power of all Chinese in China and abroad so as to make contribution to the tasks and targets set by the 20th National Congress. We must profoundly study the socialism with Chinese characteristics in this new era proposed by Xi Jinping to ensure the correct political direction of our CPPCC cause. Socialism with Chinese characteristics in this new era proposed by Xi Jinping is a great achievement of innovation by localizing Marxism in China. And we must observe its guiding principle for long in the party and in the governance. And the CPPCC must continue to take this socialism with Chinese characteristics in this new era as the general principle of CPPCC work. And according to the CPC Central Committee's arrangement and in line with the actual work of CPPCC, we must carry out certain thematic education in an attempt to deeply understand and have practical application. And we must fully grasp the worldviews and methodologies of this important thought so as to apply those positions, ideas, and methods enshrined in it to further pay a solid foundation for our further striving. And we must come to the realization that CPC leadership is the fundamental guarantee of CPPCC cause, and we must guide all political parties and people of all ethnicities and fields to remain true to their initial mission in our cooperation and forge ahead hands in hands. In an attempt, we must ensure that we will highly rally around the political stance, political direction, and principles and pathways set by the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping as its core. We must study the spirits of General Secretary Xi Jinping as to how to strengthen the CPPCC work. And we must execute the spirits of the Central Committee of CPPCC work and grasp the nature, status, functionalities, and roles of CPPCC. And according to the Constitution, laws, and CPPC's Constitution, we must pay our due responsibilities in order to adhere to socialism political development pathway.
We must focus on the key issues and serve big pictures and provide consultations and suggestions for the implementation of the decisions of the 20th CPC National Congress. General Secretary Xi Jinping emphasized that CPPCC should focus on the key tasks of the party and the nation. The CPPCC should look at the big picture, seize the trend, focus on major issues, and also put the priority to fulfill the goals set by the CPC 28th Party Congress. We have to fulfill the five-sphere integrated plan and also to implement the four-pronged comprehensive strategy. We have to make sure that we can address the need for our people, their people's aspiration for better life. We have to be issue-oriented and take more investigations to do consultations and provide suggestions, and also to conduct the democratic supervision, make sure that we can implement the annual plan approved by the CPC Central Committee. We have to serve the democratic decisions and ensure that all these decisions can be implemented and promote the high-quality development. We have to improve the quality of the consultation to make sure that it is more systemic and standardized. We have to continue to improve the practice of the socialist consultative democracy and promote the whole process people's democracy. We have to stay committed to solidarity and pull the strengths to realize the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. General Secretary Xi Jinping pointed out that solidarity is power. Solidarity will bring victory. He emphasized that in order to realize the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, we need joint efforts of Chinese people at home and abroad. Right now, China is at a critical time to realize the great rejuvenation. With the evolution of the changes unseen in a century, more than ever, we have to build up consensus and the solidarity. We have to focus on this solidarity, which is also the fine tradition and political responsibility for CPPCC. We have to provide more political guidance and put our wisdoms and build up consensus. This is our key task for the CPPCC work. We have to do more to deliberate and offer suggestions and offer consultations and suggestions. So during the consultation, we have to improve our recognition and the solidarity and cooperation. We have to work with the people and mobilize the people and provide support to the party and the government to do the publicity work. We have to coordinate the relations and diffuse the conflicts as well as firm up our confidences. By doing that, we can pull out our positive energies and enhance our morals. Also, we have to better serve all party groups and people of all ethnic groups, making sure that we can provide the political guidance, exchange our views with each other, and build a closer tie with each other. By doing that, we can form a great synergy. Members, comrades, General Secretary Xi Jinping emphasized that the CPPCC member, as representatives of all party groups and the people of all ethnic groups, they are selected through consultation. They represent people from different sectors to fulfill their duties and engage in the discussion of state affairs. This is their responsibility and also their honor. CPPCC members need to fulfill the requirements to have a deeper understanding of the CPPCC. They have to expertise in their consultation and be disciplined and have a good morale standards. We have to bear in mind the guidance of General Secretary Xi Jinping and also stay true to our original aspiration, making sure that we put our work as the priority and shoulder heavier responsibilities. We want to fulfill our duties with high spirits and serve the people. We have to improve our capability to discharge our duties. We have to learn more and dare to break new grounds. We need to improve our political awareness, our capability for investigation. We have to work with the people and form cooperation. We need to carry forward the fighting spirit. On major issues, we need to have a clear stance. And on issues of principles, we dare to speak out and make our voice heard, making sure that we play a key role on important occasions. We have to abide by the laws, constitutions, and the charter of the CPPCC. We have to be honest and self-disciplined and also carry on with the fine traditions and exercise the core value of the socialism. We need to serve the people and also make ourselves a major part in conducting CPPCC work. Members, comrades, let us rally even closer around the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, hold high the banner of socialism with Chinese characteristics, fully implement Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era, be united, work with the people, firm our confidence, forge ahead, and write a new chapter for CPPCC. Let us strive in unity to build a modern socialist country in all aspects and advance the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Please all rise. Sing the national anthem. Now I declare the first session of the 14th CPPCC is concluded.
And that was live signal from the Great Hall of the People. It was the closing meeting of the first session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee. Chairman Wang Huning has just delivered a speech.
And earlier, the CPPCC approved a work report from the Standing Committee, a report on proposal-related work, and an amendment to the CPPCC Charter, a report on the examining proposal-related work, and a political resolution. If you're just joining us now, a final round of conversation with our studio guests here, Professor Liu Baocheng and Professor Rick Dunham. Gentlemen, a lot has happened this year with the CPPCC. We now have a new National Committee chairman. We have part of the charter amended this time. Professor Liu, how would you reflect back on the CPPCC's work and changes this year?
I think now they follow very closely with our future goal by high quality development. So therefore, much of the devotion is on the number of pillars that can support such sort of high quality development. One, of course, is economic growth and ecological quality, and they bring up not only in terms of the technological breakthroughs in which the government needs to continually support, and the other is how we can really build a more harmonious society through the right type of institutional structure. So that's something that's highly impressive. And then, instead of looking on the application part of those technologies, they look more profound into the educational part, where people become the key asset in generating and utilizing those technologies. So therefore, despite of all the financial stresses, education is being paid much attention to. And actually, Mr. Wang, who is now the head, he used to be on our faculty, and so I think he sympathized a great deal of our educational resource inequity in view of our new development. And then how to advise the Communist Party, who is the only ruling party, to address the new changes in our global environment, particularly those big nation diplomacies, are also something that is very important to make sure that we have the right type of space for further development and generate, and in the meantime to contribute to the building of a community of shared future for mankind. So, I really very much appreciate the type of realistic but also strategic work the CPPCC can really deliver.
And we know that the blueprint has been reviewed and the targets are being set for the year and beyond, and China's top leadership is now in place. And the CPPCC members will be leaving the Great Hall of the People, going back to their regular jobs because they're now full-time CPPCC members, and they will go back to their fields.
I think that's the most impressive part.
Yes.
They are not professional politicians. The achievers in a particular profession, and also they have a great impact on either on the particular industry or a particular community. And then that's something that is very convincing. So that's why you do not really see a lot of debate, a lot of rhetorics, but it is really the facts. It is really the achievements they have already got that is more convincing.
Yeah, they're the best and brightest in their fields, and they are, from diverse backgrounds. Going forward, though, Mr. Dunham, how do you expect the CPPCC members, these political advisors, to further fulfill their duties?
Well, I would think in two ways. One is to continue to operate as a kind of national think tank, to be out there looking at the key issues, what's developing, what's emerging, and also how you can respond in terms of policy to changes that are taking place. The second is they are sort of political evangelists. Yes, they're not political politicians as such, but to talk about what the priorities are, what the government priorities are, and how they in their parts of the world can contribute. So I think that in one way they are there to be idea people and to be early warning system of changes that are going on. And the second is they're there to sell the policies.
I think one also impressive feature in this new resolution is to check reality. And so this is really a very realistic warning to some of the policies that were made out of ideological imagination. So, to touch on the reality, meaning that you get closer to people. And so people's supremacy is not really something of a slogan, but it must be implemented in reality. And then only by clarifying the real situation, either domestically or bilaterally or globally, you can really set up your goals and devise the type of a roadmap that you can really achieve that. I think this is something that we have paid much of the lesson to in our history, but now touch the reality, check the reality, and follow the reality is the key. I think this is something that I feel very much encouraged and inspired by their resolution's new development.
I mean, if you look at the components of the two sessions, all the big meetings, all the big gatherings, they all revolve around the predetermined goal that China has set for its immediate to long-term future here. And if you look at the recurring keywords or topics, Chinese path to modernization, common prosperity, a shared future for mankind. Professor Liu, before we wrap up here, I just want to have you look at the short-term goal here. Just for 2023, what will be the immediate objectives that all of the policymakers, that all of the political advisors have set their mind to in achieving in 2023?
Steady and resilient economic recovery, and then also preservation and more caring of people's health. And these are really the two key pillars we can really achieve, and we have to achieve for this year.
Yeah, to turn things around and really to boost people's confidence, not just in the economy, but in their future of their livelihoods. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your expertise and analysis, as always.
Thank you so much.
And Mama, I believe with that we come to the end of our special coverage today of the first session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee.
Yeah, and also we'll be keeping you updated on the ongoing session of the National People's Congress. Stay tuned for other news coming up on CGTN. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.